Alright, so we're going to be getting into where the Challenger deck is at right now. So if you don't know the whole story, I recently got into Magic, like, probably in May, with the Ixalan board game. And I decided, hey, you know what, why not, let's, jump into Friday Night Magic, see what it's like. And, the Challenger products are definitely the way to go as far as just jumping in. Quick $30. You have a competent deck, not an optimized, but a competent deck that can, at least perform a little bit on the Friday Night Magic level, not on like a Pro Tour level or anything, but, there's a lot of room for upgrades as far as the deck is concerned. The Counter Surge only comes with one Walking Ballista, which does matter, I think. I think this is a deck that needs the 4 copies. I think it's a shame that it didn't come with at least 2. But that's okay, because I understand why, you can only put in so many of good cards in a $30 product without people wanting to, buy these in mass and start ripping them up and then resell the singles. It's a very fine line. I'm not in charge of that, so you know what, beggars can't be choosers. But with that being said, I am thinking, as far as the next purchase, I am thinking of getting the 1 additional copy of Walking Ballista, not the full playset, because that is a a $35 commitment, I think, at the moment. They're selling about $12 each. So about $30 to $36 maybe. I don't know, the price fluctuates, but just getting that 1 additional copy is going to bring me down $11, $12. But yeah, so right now I'm still with 1 Walking Ballista. Got to upgrade it. Just amazing, because you can just remove it, obviously, with the Winding Constrictor. Every time you stack a counter on it, it just gets another one, and you can just remove counters at will anytime. You can, take out a Phoenix, even, use a cast down on a Phoenix, and then remove 1 counter, kill the egg. So many good things about Walking Ballista. But yeah, I can't say enough about it, how core it is. All the green-black Constrictor decks are running 4 ofs. So until I get the 4 of playset, my deck it feels like it's neutered, and, I do draw it every now and then, but only 1 copy. You can only get so many consistent results, right? In a deck that, really needs this card to really shine, as far as the deck is concerned. The Walking Ballista is where the power is at. It's the, I'm not going to say it's the Chandra. The red deck gets the Chandra Planeswalker, which is insane. I'm not going to say it's on that kind of power level, but, as far as synergy and idea of the deck, Walking Ballista is definitely core to that. So moving on, still got the 4 Winding Constrictors, obviously. It's the kind of the reason why you built, buy this deck and build around the counter synergy. Very, very cool card. I'm still rocking the 4 Glint-Sleeve Siphoners. This card, even in a meta where it's dominated by a Goblin Chain Whirler, Glint-Sleeve Siphoner is absolutely ridiculous if it goes out of control. In the early game, it can't be blocked because it has Menace. So in 1v1 combat in the early game, you usually swing in for 1, so you're almost guaranteed to get that upkeep counter. You take 1, but you draw an extra card, which is insane. And if it goes uncontested, out of control, maybe against a control deck, maybe they didn't draw removal, maybe, there's so many things that this can go out of control with. Maybe you just draw it later in the game, get that 1 additional energy with a Constrictor on the board, and now you have 2, and then the next turn, this survived, and then boom, you draw another card. It's just so many good things about this. If you notice the green-black Constrictor list nowadays, a lot of them are running like 30+ creatures, not a lot of spells or anything, or non-creature spells. The reason being is because they have all of their stuff built into creatures. Card draw built into creatures. Ravenous Chupacabra, Thrashing Brontodon, removal built into creatures, which is, pretty nice, because you don't have to worry about spells so much. You can just use creatures, establish your board, as well as have that additional effect of removing something, drawing a card, something along those lines. But this obviously has the synergy with energy, counters, you can get additional ones. Really great card. As you notice, I'm not rocking the full playset of Llanowar Elves. I only have 2, by the way, but I was thinking of getting the full playset of Llanowar Elves, and the reason why I don't is because, first of all, I got to upgrade my land base. I got to get the untapped lands that come in untapped. If I have 2 or fewer, the Blooming Marsh. You really need those, because if you play this on turn 1 and then you play turn 2 Elf, Llanowar Elves, it's like you kind of lose the benefit of playing a turn 1 Llanowar Elves, right? Where the payoff is at turn 3, where you can drop like a Steel Leaf Champion or something ridiculous on turn 3. Jade Light Ranger or whatever. Thrashing Brontodon. So not only is the payoff for me not as good because I'm not using Steel Leaf Champions, even though all the green-black Constrictor lists are rocking for Llanowar Elves, I need to improve my land base first. Whoops. Dropping cards like a noob again. Alright, yeah, I need to improve my land base first, so that's probably my next purchase is, you know, 1 Walking Ballista, 4 Blooming Marshes, and maybe I commit to the Dominaria lands. I'm still not sure about that yet because that's such a huge expense right up front, so I kind of want to limit my next purchase to like under 30 bucks. Don't want to go up to like 40 or 50, but we'll see about that. But yeah, that's the reason why. And another reason why I'm not rocking the Llanowar Elves is not only because of my lands aren't that good, but also because I'm getting, you know, 3-for-1s with the Goblin Chain Roller. I have a Glint-Sleeve out, I have a Llanowar Elves out. All of a sudden, they drop a Goblin Chain Roller, kills my Glint-Sleeve, kills my Llanowar Elves. Not only is that 2-for-1 already, but then I got to burn like a cast down or something to take care of that first strike Goblin Chain Roller. So, you know, I've been getting 2-for-1, 3-for-1 with Goblin Chain Roller with the 1 toughness creatures. Goblin Chain Roller is at every Friday Night Magic, at least one of them. Chances are you're going to go against 2 of them in 2 rounds, I mean. You're going to go against Goblin Chain Rollers a lot because it's just such a good card. That's obviously with all the other good cards, like, you know, all the God cards, Planeswalkers, all that good stuff. You're going to face that a lot in the meta because those obviously are the powerhouses. That's what the meta is. It's dominated by the stronger, more dominant cards like Teferi. I haven't seen too many cards, but you know, Chandras, you know, Hazoret, Ronus, Rekindling Phoenix, Scarab Gods, Torrential Gearhulks. You know, just the powerhouse cards, and Goblin Chain Rollers on those lines. Getting those 1 toughness creatures out of your deck, I think, is helpful. I think I still need to emulate the green-black Constrictor lists that are current, that are reaching the top 8s. You know, they have like the 30-plus creature decks, along with a playset of Llanowar Elves, but at the same time, I'm on a budget build at the moment. Again, remember, I just kind of like very, very briefly tweaked this deck with the Planeswalker deck and the Deck Builder's Toolkit. The Planeswalker deck being mainly the Liliana. It had 2 Murders, 2 Diagraph Ghouls, and 1 Demon of Catastrophes. Deck Builder's Toolkit had some other stuff in there, like a Thrashing Brontodon and a Ravenous Chupacabra. So, you know, at the moment the deck isn't optimized, obviously, and, you know, I still need to get that full place of Llanowar Elves, play with that, you know, see if it works with the updated lands, improve my land base so that they don't come in to play taps, so I can play that turn 1 Llanowar Elves, maybe get some more forest. But, as I move on, next up is the Untamed Kavu. Now, I know this was supposed to be for my casual deck, but I realized, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. So initially, I was thinking, well, I ordered 3 Serving the Conduits because I was thinking I was going to play with Attune with the Aether, which is a banned card, which that hilarity ensued when I ordered a banned card. And I sleeved them up, and then someone told me, hey, you know what, that's a banned card. Well, alright, didn't know. You know, 4 Winding Constrictors, 4 Glint-Sleeve Siphoners, and then I was going to play with 3 Long Tusk Cubs and then 3 Servant of the Conduits, because on turn 1 I could play with Attune with Aether, have a bunch of energy. That's kind of what my mentality was, have the Long Tusk Cubs, have the potential to pump up my Long Tusk Cubs, but without the Attune with Aether, I think the Long Tusk Cub goes down because you can't pump it up immediately. It has to swing in and at least connect for one time to get that additional 2 energy with the Long Tusk Cub. So I took the Long Tusk Cubs out, put in the Untamed Kavus, and this actually did work for me on in Friday Night Magic, you know, because the reason being is, you know, it's a flexible card. On turn 2, yeah, sure, why not? It's 2/2 with Vigilance Trampler. That doesn't really mean much at 2 mana, 2/2, but still, it's early game play. Establishes board against maybe a control deck or something along those lines, or contest the board against aggro. Against later in the game, with the Constrictor, it gets pumped. You kick it for 3. It's 5 mana. It doesn't have strict mana requirements, so it's just a 5 mana kick. Comes in to play with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. With the Constrictor out, it gets a +1. If you have 2 Constrictors, it gets +2. So typically, I think on average, you're going to get a 5 kick. Untamed Kavu comes into play with, you know, 4 counters with 1 Constrictor out on the board. So it comes into play as a 5 mana 6/6 Trampler, Vigilance Trampler. It's very flexible. I really like it. If I've you know, 2 early game plays and an Untamed Kavu, I'll keep the Untamed Kavu for later. I really like that flexibility. Plus a Vigilance Trampler gets pretty crazy in my opinion. I mean, 5 mana 6/6 Vigilance Trampler, or even a 5 mana 5/5 Vigilance Trampler. Hey, you know, I'll take that as a budget consideration, at least in the meantime, while I'm you know, trying to figure out my my next you know, purchases. I definitely need to take, you know, get that Walking Ballista, one Walking Ballista, and then put in a. Yeah, I need to order that one Walking Ballista and maybe take out one Untamed Kavu. But I've been really impressed by the Untamed Kavu as far as my one time playing with it on Friday Night Magic. So, you know, play with 3 maybe. It kind of fills multiple slots, the 2 mana as well as the 5 mana slot, and it still has that synergy with the Constrictor. So, you know, I need to take out take in one Walking Ballista, get that order in, and swap out one Untamed Kavu for that Ballista. And I think as a budget, you know, option, that'd be a good choice, running with 2 Walking Ballistas. I'm not sure if I want to make the commitment for 4 for the playset at this moment, at least. You know, it's easy to get carried away and spend all your money on, you know, pieces of paper, right? But, you know, it's really important to, you know, as a hobby at least, you know, kind of make a budget. You know, I could waste a lot more money, but I'm deciding to, you know, over time build my collection, as opposed to just, hey, I want to be as competitive as immediately as possible, which is you know, if you're coming from Hearthstone and you're, you know, reaching Legend, or you're doing well in Arena and you're coming into another game, another TCG, and you're expecting good results, it's easy to say I'm gonna drop all the money and become the best immediately. But, you know, for me, I'm just like, initially Magic was supposed to be a casual game. I'm not even supposed to be playing it, you know, like semi-competitively at my Friday Night Magic level, but I decided to do that because I just wanted to, you know, see what it's like and just have fun, you know. So that's why I'm not, you know, so concerned about getting the full playset of Ballistas. I'm not trying to go on the Pro Tour or anything, but, you know, at the same time, I still am paying attention to what the top tier players are playing, at least as far as, you know, doing my research on, you know, like MTG Goldfish, or, you know, checking out the you know, Wizards of the Coast, the official deck list that they release of the top 8 Pro Tour or Grand Prix or whatever, and seeing what those players are playing. And you know, they're not really playing with Servant of the Conduits, but I still think it's nice since I'm not playing with the Llanowar Elves. Yes, it is slower, but it still enables that turn 3 you know, 4 mana play. So I'm not sure. I think Llanowar Elves is obviously better, but it still feels really bad to get, you know, Goblin Chain World, my Siphoners, which happens all the time. Like, you know, 3 or 4 times it's happened to me. And, you know, probably with the Llanowar Elves, it's probably happened once where I got 3 for 1s with the Glint-Sleeve and a Llanowar Elves on the board, as well as a Goblin Chain Whirler, just taking those 2 out. And then I had to burn a removal on that Goblin Chain Whirler because I don't have any First Strike on any of my creatures. So, yeah, Servant of the Conduit is probably not, it's probably slower, but for me, even though I probably need that 4th copy, again, remember I was thinking of 3 copies of Servant of the Conduit, 3 copies of Long Test Cub, and then the 4 Attune with Ethers, but that didn't work out. But still, having the 3 copies of Servant of the Conduit, you know, it's still useful. Still, you know, when it does come out on the board, enables that 4-turn play, or next turn enables an earlier Gearhulk. So I think I'm going to still keep the Servant of the Conduits as opposed to playing with the Llanowar Elves at this time. We'll see where the deck goes, but then, yeah, of course, Thrashing Brontodon. This is such a good card. It's insane. I need to get 4 copies, I think. Right now I only have that 1 copy from the Deck Builders Toolkit. Along with my order of Blooming Marshes, as well as the Walking Ballista, I think I'm going to get maybe 2, maybe even 3 Thrashing Brontodons. Just have 1 on the sideboard, I think. I don't know. It's just such a good card, and I got it from the Deck Builders Toolkit. So glad that they include at least 1 of them, because it's so good, so relevant in this current meta. So many artifacts, enchantments, Heart of Kirans, the new sagas, you know, Gearhulks, stuff like that. It's just so relevant. Next up is Reclamation Sage. Yeah, so this is a recent addition. I didn't have this at Friday Night Magic, but I just threw it in here because, you know, just doing an overall deck review of like where my deck is at. I need a main deck Reclamation Sage as far as my current meta, because again, it's so relevant with artifact and enchantment removal. It's insane. I mean, every game, I think, maybe like 85%, 90% of the time, there's at least an enchantment or artifact I can destroy later in the game at some point, at least some point. So I think it is main deckable, even if I'm facing maybe a mono red deck that doesn't have many enchantments or artifacts, I still think it's, you know, hold it in your hand, they drop down maybe a Flame of Keld, then all of a sudden, boom, they can't draw the cards, you know. Even at that worst case, when they're only playing like, you know, 2, 3, 4 enchantments, I think it's still worth it. So, at least as far as my current meta that I've noticed. I think this is a meta call, so you know you're not gonna get this from the Challenger deck, deck builders or the Challenger deck. This is from the Vivian deck, where they include 1 Reclamation Sage. I just threw it in here from the sideboard, but now I realize, hey, you know what, it might be a good call to main deck it. So 3-drop Sweet, you know, having the 2 Rishkars and 3 Thrashing Brontodons, I think would be solid against the field in game 1. I think because obviously with the Rishkar, with the Constrictor, it's the nuts. You know, you get a turn 3, 4, 5, as well as a 4, 4. Insane, but you know, even though that does happen, I think you know, just having the Thrashing Brontodons against the meta in game 1, having 3 of them is a better call than having 3 Rishkars. I'd rather have 2 Rishkars and 3 Thrashing Brontodons, at least in my mind. I think that's a good. It seems like a good fit at the moment. 1 Ravenous Chupacabra, again from the Deck Builders Toolkit. Amazing what you can get in the Deck Builders Toolkit. As far as the core set 19, you get a Seal Away, you get you know, Ravenous Chupacabra, Thrashing Brontodon, some counter spells, some lightning strikes. Pretty nice array of spells, even though there's a lot of bulk. But you know, at my current stage, just getting these cards, even in singles from the Deck Builders Toolkit, is really nice because, you know, it cuts down a little bit of expense when I'm gonna order from singles from TCG players. So heck, I might even order get another Deck Builders Toolkit just to get more lands and more bulk, because I still need a land station when I make my cube. So you know, it's just another consideration. I might just order the singles though, as opposed to ordering a Deck Builders Toolkit. I really don't know, but I still like opening the Deck Builders Toolkit because it's, I don't know, it's just fun. You still get those 4 packs, and you can sell off, if I really wanted to, I could sell off my aggressive mammoths. And you know, try and recuperate some of the expenses. So, but you know, I'm probably just going to order the Ravenous Chupacabras along with Thrashing Brontodon, the Ballista, and the Blooming Marshes as my next purchase, just to kind of emulate similar to you know, the more modern green-black Constrictor list, because they're running 4 Ravenous Chupacabras, 4 Thrashing Brontodons. Like I said with the Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, they're building all of their stuff. You know, the card draw, the removal. Everything is built into creatures now, and that establishes your board as well as doing the effects. So, you know, maybe I take down a cast down, I take out a cast down for Ravenous Chupacabra, maybe I take out the Bristling Hydras for the Chupacabra, but I still really like the Hydras. I want to play with at least 2, simply because, I don't know, it just flows well with the theme of the deck with the energy and the counters, and it's also a nuisance for some decks to deal with, because it has the built-in hexproof. If you know, obviously got to burn the energy, but it's always making them think about using their removal on a Bristling Hydra. So I think for now, maybe 2 Ravenous Chupacabras and 2 Bristling Hydras is a good sweet spot. Got to play around with it a little bit more. I mean, got to think about it a little bit more, because you know, all the current lists are running 4 Chupacabras. Even though I still think that's a little bit slow against the aggro decks, it might be the right call, but. Yeah, I got 3 Bristling Hydras. I think that's a sweet spot right now. That was from my TCG player order. That was from the you know, Saffron Olive's $20 budget upgrades. He included the Bristling Hydras as well as the Servant of the Conduits. So yeah, I really like playing with this card. There are times where it doesn't shine as hard as it should, because you know, this obviously needs some support to really shine. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just play with a, you know, a Vine Mare, for instance? So. You know, I still really like the card though. I'm gonna play with 3, maybe 2 at the minimum if I start removing it for Ravenous Chupacabras. But that's besides the point. Still got 3 Gearhulks. Gonna move on. Gearhulks obviously with the Constrictor are kind of like a win condition. If you can get a full board and you can establish, you know, at least 4 different creatures where you can put 1 counter with Constrictor out, that's plus 2 counters on each creature. That's insane. But again, it doesn't happen as often as you would like. It does happen though. But you know, in a braid heavy meta, this card kind of loses value. Or Thrashing Brontodons even. There's a lot of the Steel Leaf decks are running a lot of Thrashing Brontodons, so this card does go down in value. And I actually have some from the sideboard that replaces one of these if I know I'm going against heavy artifact removal. So that is the creature list. I think I'm at 28. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 28 creatures, almost at that 30 creature mark. I think the most recent list I saw had like 32, 33 creatures from the top 8 green-black Constrictor list. Obviously, the green-black Constrictor decks aren't dominating or aren't winning things, but they're still making top 8. So, you know, it's still encouraging. But, you know, again, I'm at the local Friday Night Magic level. I should still be able to at least compete with his deck, and that's kind of the main reason why I bought it. But I'm not trying to be top tier, obviously. But anyways, let's go into the removal package. So my current removal package is, it's kind of weird, but I'll show you why, you know, I kind of have it the way it is. So I have one divest. I was given a divest in like a stack of cards that someone at my local game store, you know, they just didn't need it and they just gave it to me. And I found a divest in it and I was like, heck yeah, man. This is kind of like Duress, except it's targeting artifacts and creatures. And I think that's relevant in game 1 because most decks I'm facing are creature-based decks. There are some control decks, but even in those control matchups, they might have a Torrential Gearhulk that I can pull. You know, there's still creatures in those control decks most often, and I think it's a good a good game 1 you know, card to have just as a one of. I only have one of anyways, so one Fatal Push. That's funny because I was thinking I could try and play the deck without a Fatal Push or Walking Ballista on my last Friday Night Magic. Turned out to be a disaster. There's so many times where I needed the Ballista or the Fatal Push to take out, you know, various threats. They're just so good in power level that I need to keep these and at least get one more Ballista. Maybe get one more Fatal Push. I don't think getting that extra Fatal Push is as important as getting the Ballista, but, you know, still a consideration. And again, you know, with these cards, it's easy to get lost and trying to get a full play set and lose all your money, or, you know, spend all your money. And I'm trying to ball on a budget at the moment, so, because I'm thinking about building other decks, that's the reason. But, you know, I'm still in this meta for another couple months, I think. I don't know when the pre-release for the Ravnica set is. But, you know, still having that one Fatal Push, going to keep that. Rocking 3 cast downs. I think I have a 4th copy from the sideboard if I'm going against Steel Leaf decks. Just good removal. It is non-legendary, which is kind of crappy, but can't take out Galtas or Lyra Dawnbringers, but it can still take out, you know, a lot of threats in the format. Goblin Chain Rollers, Steel Leaf Champions, you know, so I still really like that. I'm going to play with 3 ofs. I have 2 Cartouches in the main deck, and I know this is kind of weird, but this is, again, a meta call, very similar to the Reclamation Sage, where I think it is main deckable, at least in my current meta from what I've seen in game 1. It's not coming from the sideboard. I think it is main deckable. I actually took these out when I initially saw them. Yeah, when I initially saw them, I was like, man, this card isn't that good, is it? It's like a 3 mana, it's very slow, it's like, it doesn't give you much, +1/+1 and lifelink, that's not a lot. But then when you face a bunch of 1 toughness creatures, you know, Bomat Couriers, or even Viashino Pyromancers are starting to pop up, you know, Glint-Sleeve Siphoners, even in control decks, there's some 1 toughness creatures. And even in those cases, you know, it does do work in that situation where, you know, in a meta that you know, has a bunch of 1 toughness creatures, this is a relevant card, even in the main deck, I think. But even the lifelink is relevant because, you know, going against burn decks, if you can put this on, for example, a Bristling Hydra, where you can kind of protect it a little bit, then all of a sudden you're swinging in for 5 to get your life back on a bigger creature. And maybe there's something to be said about having Aethersphere Harvester in the place of these. But for now, you know, I gotta do another order for the Walking Ballistas and Blooming Marshes. Maybe I do Heart of Kirans or Aethersphere Harvesters and I put them in. Maybe I do that, but in the meantime, I think this is a good meta call in my local metas that I'm seeing. A lot of 1 toughness creatures. I think this is a relevant card. And it's kind of like a little bit of a Fatal Push. 1 toughness creatures are typically, you know, 2 mana or less, even though Fatal Push obviously shines with its flexibility later in the game with the Revolt. Still, I think this is a good card to main deck at the moment. Obviously against control it's not really that good because you put it on a creature and then, you know, it gets exiled or, you know, Settle the Wreckage, or, you know, it just blows up to board clears or whatever. But you know, as far as like all of the, what I'm seeing at least, I think this is a good main deck call. Obviously in the sideboard, you can swap it out. And 2 Hour of Glories. Got to finish off with exile effects with all the gods that are around. Scarab Gods, Ronus, Hazarets, even Rekindling Phoenixes. Obviously this is the poor man's Vraska's Contempts, but what can you do? I'm not going to drop all my money on this one challenger deck. I'm trying to think about other, you know, other purchases that I want to make, and that's obviously kind of one of the benefits of playing on, you know, online, like on a arena or something, where you have access to all these cards immediately. And in paper, in real life, it's a, you know, it's a different task to accumulate what you need to compete. So the land base is, you know, 4 Aether Hubs, 4 Foul Orchards. Got to upgrade this to Blooming Marshes. Even if I only have the Blooming Marshes for a little bit longer in Standard, I can use those Blooming Marshes for Modern, maybe make a budget to Modern, you know, energy / Whiny Constrictor counter deck. It's definitely gonna be like bottom tier level, but you know, maybe I can use that as a shell to jump into Modern just to participate. I don't know yet, but I think I'm gonna make that commitment and get the Blooming Marshes, 1 Ballista, maybe some other purchases. Gotta see, maybe that like Heart of Kiran's, for example. Maybe I get those just so I have a better air presence. But yeah, 3 Hasheps, cut down from 4, just because I felt like I don't know, I feel like 3 is enough. You don't really need 4. Rather just have another forest, because what, at most you have 2 of these on the battlefield, and you can't really crack. I mean, you could crack them. It's just, you know, I think, you know, 3 is a sweet number for right now. Went down to, from 2 Memorial Follies to 1, because you can really feel the effects of it coming into play tapped. You lose that tempo. You want to make sure your lands are coming in untapped so you can use that mana. But, you know, just having 1 Memorial to Folly for right now, because I still really like the effect of getting another creature, just in case, like, you know, it gets taken out for a 1/1 removal or a board wipe or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forests and 5 swamps. So that, I think that's 23, 8, 12. Yep, 23, 11. Okay. So, you know, that's where the deck is at right now. Let's check out the sideboard real quick. As far as sideboard is concerned, I'm still rocking the Scrapheap Scroungers. I think it's just a good card against control. Establish more aggression early in the game, and also having that recursion in case it gets, you know, board wiped or whatever. Another cast down against Steel Leaf decks. Dream Stealers, because yeah, it is kind of like a 1/2 for 3 mana, but you know, if against control, if it goes just berserk, for instance, it just discards cards left and right every time it swings in. And then if it does get board wiped, you can eternalize it, but you know, I don't know, I just think it's a nice nuisance for the control matchup. 2 Lifecrafters Bestiaries, again, against the control matchup, where you can consistently rely on, you know, having this throughout the whole game, throughout a long game, you can get the value out of this. You know, 2 Doomfalls, maybe Duress is better. It probably is. You know, running 4 copies of Duress. I'm not running 4 copies at the moment, but just doing 2 copies of Doomfall. I think it's nice to have that, you know, discard whatever non-land card in their hand. But also, what if they have like a Torrential Gearhulk or something? You could use it for that too. But most of the time, it's probably just going to be for hand hate, along with, you know, Dream Stealer, and you know, try and get this. You know, even Dispossess against Torrential Gearhulks. You can name Torrential Gearhulks, or maybe the Ether Flux Reservoir, or whatever that one card is. Whatever important you know, artifacts are out there, you can potentially dispossess. Mainly it's for Torrential Gearhulks though. And 2 Hour of Glories, that might be a little bit too much, but you know, decks are running 4 copies of Vraska's Contempts to exile all of the gods and Rekindling Phoenixes, and obviously Planeswalker in that case. But you know, for us, we're balling on a budget right now. We don't have the full play set of Vraska's Contempts, which are insane. I think for a full play set is, you know what, $32, $40 or something like that. I don't know. I think they're $8 each. Gotta check that. 2 Gaunties, again, just another value card against control. I might start teching it in against these mid-range black-red aggro decks for the Rekindling Phoenixes and Goblin Chain Whirlers and, you know, Hazred, just stealing anything I can get my hands on. And those kind of decks, I need to start teching this in against that. I mainly have been using this against Control along with my Dream Stealers. But, you know, yeah, it's a good card. I really like this card. It's just, in Game 1, I think, against those aggro decks, it doesn't shine as hard. So yeah. And Vivian of the Arcbow. This one is, right now I'm at 16 cards on my sideboard. I'm not sure if it's going to make it. I think it will, though, because we're in a braid heavy meta where, you know, if you do get your Torrential Gearhulk out, it's going to get braided. You know, 2 mana removal for your 5 mana, it feels really bad. And also, this is something that you want to draw into late, so, you know, I think maybe 2 copies might be a sweet spot, but, you know, if you do see that they're playing 4 copies of a braid, and everything's just getting abraded, you can swap one for the Vivian. That's what I was thinking, at least, because it does have the counter synergy, and it does have a built-in Rabid Bite, which is a removal. Obviously, you're going to have a board state, hopefully, with, you know, your Whiting Constrictors and all of your counters and everything, that you can have a high-power creature. It also has a built-in win condition in it, and, you know, it's not as good as, like, a Vraska Relic Seeker, where it's +1 every time you create a 2/2, like, Pirate or whatever. It's not like that, where you can go wide and have a win condition that way, but, you know, it is a win condition nonetheless, because giving all your creatures trample, have an insane board state with a Gearhulk, along with some, you know, Whiting Constrictors, giving everything trample, could potentially work out. I don't know. It's kind of a wild card at the moment, but that's where the sideboard's at. Now, as far as, you know, what my next purchases are going to be, it's probably going to be a Walking Ballista, maybe some Scrapheap Scroungers, and maybe I go the Heart of Kiran route. I don't know. Maybe I make this more into an aggro deck. I'm going to get the 4 Blooming Marshes, finish off with 2 Llanowar Elves, and experiment with that, because a lot of the green-black Constrictor lists are running the 4 Llanowar Elves. But in that case, I really need to improve my lands. I need to get the Woodland Cemetery from Dominaria as well, as well as run more Forest, I think, just so I can guarantee that turn 1 Llanowar Elves. But in the meantime, you know, there's a lot to learn, but I think I'm at a good spot right now as far as, like, where I'm at, you know, spending money-wise, and having fun, you know. I think I'm at a good balance. I don't want to commit like 50 or 60 or even $100 into a standard deck. I just kind of want to play on my Friday Night Magic and just chill and have fun. And I think this is something that, you know, isn't obviously top tier, but at the moment is just, you know, for chill, casual Friday Night Magic, trying to be semi-competitive, you know, rocking a lower tiered deck because, you know, obviously it's not optimized with all of the crazy stuff like the J-Lot Rangers or the Ballistas or anything like that. It's not fully optimized, but at the same time, I'm happy with my results so far, even though, you know, I'm not like dominating or anything. I'm still happy with my results, and I'm happy with the overall purchase of the